So me and my boyfriend were out on a visit with our regular DM. He visited his friend, whom my friend swore was the best DM he had ever heard, seen, played with. He portrayed himself as a god among DMs. Well, we get there, and we talk, wanting to join the discussion about DMing, since all the others were already strangely dismissive of me, my friend, and the DM, that is. I mentioned I was going to start my own campaign with my boyfriend and 2 other girls, making us a 2 female, 1 male players group with a female DM. The DM didn't even look at me. He looked straight at my boyfriend and just said, genuine pity in his eyes, "Man, I feel so frickin' sorry for you. That is going to be the most boring campaign ever." Let's just say we didn't stay for very long. Yeah, that was probably for the best. Anyone who needs to portray themselves as a god amongst DMs probably isn't that good of a DM in reality. I've thought about this story for a while, but I was hoping I'd be able to persuade someone else at the table to tell it instead of me. I didn't know the people terribly well at the time, and even though some have become friends since then, they would be able to tell the story much better than I. Despite that, let me go ahead and introduce the cast. There is our protagonist, who we'll call Rick, my other friends, who we'll call Ed and Bob, and myself, the GM. We were playing Mage. Now, I had just moved into town and didn't know these people terribly well. We met at the game store on weekends and would play cards. At some point, we thought, why not get some TTRPGs in? And I started storytelling. Forever GM. I know my role. Everyone had made characters, and we had a few sessions that went well. The party got together, some major plot elements had been revealed, things were moving. However, the players didn't know each other's backstory. There weren't secrets, but we had done character creation in one-on-one sessions on downtime at the shop a couple weeks prior, and while the characters had done some introductions to each other, there was just content left unsaid. The incident that killed the campaign happened when the Seers of the Throne came to offer each character Faustian bargains. When they came to Ricky's character and started asking him about his desires and things he wanted, he started talking about his rocky relationship with his wife, in-game. The villains were like, "Oh yes, we can help you with that," and he was like, "Great." Every player at the table was looking at each other thinking, that's not a good idea, but the story was getting good. He then talked about how he wishes his wife were biddable, and that he wished she would worry less now that he was doing all this magey stuff. What he really wished is that he could just have his wife reprogrammed. And the Seers were like, "We're happy to oblige." At this point, the players started talking. Bob was like, "Ricky, that is really evil and messed up." And Ricky said something close to, "But it's a good story, and it's what I want, and I think that's what my character would do." And after some laughs, we got back to the game. So I set the scene. After talking with them, you make your way back to introduce your new friends to your wife, Christina. All of a sudden, Bob is like, "Hey, wait, hold on." Bob looks at Rick and is like, "Did you write your ex into your backstory? Are we just playing out some jealous fantasy of yours?" I'm a bit panicked, because I didn't know anything about that. Ricky gave me this absolutely bewildered look on his face and says, "Of course not." And Bob says, "You named her Christina." And Rick says, "Yeah, my ex is named Christina. They're nothing alike, though." And everyone just awkwardly looks at each other and then breaks out laughing. He has very much written his ex into his backstory. I open up the back end of all the stuff he submitted about her. The physical description he submitted of his character's partner turns out to be a physical description of his ex. The story of how they got together, matching the player's prior relationship's start. Bob said something to the effect of, "I know this person, and this isn't a therapy session. I really don't want to do this." And we moved on, at least for the night. We did some adventuring, but things were really awkward. We did other campaigns, and that campaign met for another session or two, but no one could really get back into the story without feeling a little bit of the taint of that prior session. We just call it quits. TLDR, player writes an X into their backstory unbeknownst to the GM. When it comes up in play, the campaign dies under the awkward moment. Yeah, that is definitely awkward. We have talked about including your own personality in your characters. Inevitably, it's going to happen. You are playing this character. They are tied to you, whether you want them to be or not. However, including stuff like this in your backstory is just immature, and yeah, it's awkward, it's weird, especially when people at the table know about the people that you're including as essentially revenge fantasies in your backstory. I've brought this up before as well, but it's not your D&D group's responsibility to act as therapists. They're not therapists. Your therapist is your therapist, not your D&D group. Placing that upon them and placing that kind of responsibility on them, even if you're just doing it for some kind of weird, light-hearted fun, it's not cool. And it can definitely rip apart a group. Even just an awkward moment like this, as you can see, can cause a group to drift apart. Alright, next story. Tonight, I came to Adventure Games expecting to play D&D. It was my third time joining a group of individuals I had come to like, and I always enjoyed our sessions. I chose to leave shortly after arriving, however, as the owner, Blue Redacted, decided to shout at us and act as a child in front of his whole establishment about a conversation we had last week that he deemed inappropriate, making more than one patron feel uncomfortable, I am sure. He was gauche and didn't care to hear our side of the story, even though some of the group has been playing there for years without incident, and now they are no longer welcome. If that is the power of a review, then I hope this one stings, Blue Redacted, because neither I nor my friends will be frequenting your place of business any longer. Oh, that sucks. Seems like a game store owner overstepped. Objection! You are correct. We did deem the conversation your D&D group had last week about beating up women and getting around a strip club's no-touch rule so you can do so inappropriate. We had strict, no-tolerance policy about such matters, and both players who engaged in the conversation admitted they were in the wrong. Their actions were a clear violation of our store's code of conduct and the rules set forth by Wizards of the Coast, so there was no need for us to hear anybody else's side of the story. I'm sorry that Blue Redacted's reaction made you uncomfortable. Maybe you can now begin to understand how the 13-year-old girl and her father felt when they were put in such an uncomfortable situation. They got up and left during the middle of the session. We have continued to have problems with this group for several years, which I am now guessing they forgot to mention to you. However, those problems pale in comparison to the horrible things that were said by not only the players in the group, but by the DM, who was supposed to be leading the group and being responsible for the session. Since we work very hard to make our space one where everyone, including women, feel safe and welcome, we feel it is in everyone's best interest that you and your friends do not return to our store. Damn, he killed him! Wow, though, good on the game store. That kind of behavior, especially in a public place like a game store where people walk around and can hear everything you're saying, it is not appropriate. Look, I'm a proponent for playing D&D however you want, but if your way of playing the game is so obtrusive and obnoxious that you're going to ruin the experience for everyone else around you, sorry man, that's not okay. This group clearly did not care about anyone around them, and even left a negative review where they just didn't think anything was wrong because I'm sure they're just that plain selfish. And that is the core of the problem here, selfishness. Good on the game store for taking some action and making sure that they can foster a good environment for their customers. At least the ones who actually follow their codes of conduct. The ones who matter. Alright, final story. Dear RPG enthusiasts, I'm going to present you one of the most bizarre games I have ever played in. It happened a few months ago when the COVID-19 crisis was just beginning. I saw a post on r/LFG recruiting one player for a roleplay heavy character-driven game. Supposedly, they were missing one player for whatever reason. I filled in the enclosed form, and a few hours after, I got a message by the DM saying that I was chosen. I was sent an invite to a Discord server with a pretty generic name, Online D&D. I almost left because I hate when someone writes D and D, like spell out the and, but I was foolish enough to stay. Then I want to create my character. Sure, we have a wizard and a barbarian, so you have to play a half-caster to keep stuff balanced, the DM wrote. I was a bit shocked, but I wanted to play paladin anyway, so I pretty much ignored that red flag. I built a pretty generic female dwarven paladin with Oath of Vengeance. Hill dwarf though, I didn't want to see min-maxy with mountain dwarf. Besides, extra HP is always useful. And I started writing backstory. She was a daughter of a dwarven king, and she was born into the boring life of a noble. She ran away to become a knight. While running away from the capital, she met some other dwarves and they decided to stay together and train together in the future. However, they got ambushed and everyone except her got killed. She survived getting hit by a club and played dead, so she swore that she'd avenge her companions, justifying the vengeance subclass. As I said, pretty generic. The DM liked it. Nothing crazy, that's good. I was actually excited because I was expecting the DM will tie my character into the world by eventually confronting my pursuers. Dwarven King really wants his daughter back, or some kind of meaningless violence towards random bandits from my side, leading to weakening my powers, redemption arcs, etc., etc. I know I sound like I want all the spotlight, but it was supposed to be character driven, and I'm willing to wait my turn to shine. So a few days later, session 4 starts. They played 3 sessions with the guy who left. I was waiting for some introduction of my character, but all I got was, "Welcome our new paladin, Lady Morena." The other 2 responded with, "Welcome Morena." And that was it. No roleplay, nothing. I just appeared there. Then the DM continued, "You were all in a tavern. During the last session, you killed the goblins. Now, a lady in white approaches you. She is beautiful like an angel. She asks you to help her find her child." The wizard stays quiet. The barbarian responds, "My character expresses that he doesn't want to look for her child. He's rude." DM says, "She cries and begs you." Wizard says, "Brutus was rude to her. I want to accept the quest." Barbarian says, "Brutus is ashamed and he agrees with Gandalf." Take a wild guess at what class Gandalf is. Before accepting the quest, he asks Morena about her opinion. I am shocked. No roleplay, nothing, just empty sentences. So it took a few moments for me to respond. I simply say, "Brutus, don't you see that this woman is desperate? She lost her child. How can you be so cold and insult her? Even before thinking about the amount of money we can earn if she's rich." I add quieter. Yeah, I was chaotic good. The DM just says, "Man, what was that?" Me, roleplaying? DM, No, we don't do it like that. I tell you when to roleplay, just wait." Looking at it now, retrospectively, I should have left right away, but my brain said, "There will be roleplay. Stay." So I stayed. DM, "You accept the quest. She tells you where to look for the child. You go there. It's a forest. She says she's scared to enter. Do you enter?" Wizard and Barb, "Yes." Me, "Wait guys, hey, not so fast. I asked the woman why she is afraid. It could be a trap." I decided to play along, at least for a while. DM, You can't do that. I haven't thought of that." He seriously didn't have a clue how to improvise. Even something like, "She doesn't respond," would be better than that. I just say, "Ma'am, I sincerely apologize, but I can't enter the forest yet. My codex doesn't allow me to act recklessly. What if you were a hag trying to deceive us?" At this point, I was just desperately trying. Who knows, maybe this was just some kind of stupid joke. Or they will try to play along. DM just says, "She becomes furious and shouts that this is not a trap. You have to enter the forest or she will kill you." Me, I kneel down before the woman. "Ma'am, I'm a holy knight, member of the ancient paladin order, protector of the innocent and bane of all evildoers. Who are you? So powerful that you could defeat me, yet so weak you can't, enter the forest?" After I finish, the DM goes berserk. "Spare us all this stupid babbling. We're playing a game, not living a fairy tale. How old are you, 10? Holy knight, protector of the innocent. You're a paladin, not a holy knight." Wait, what? The 2 poor lost individuals join him. They basically repeat his words. Wizard says he casts burning hands on me, and DM rules I'm just dead. "Now get lost, derailer." The voice chat went silent. It was funny actually being kicked out for role-playing. I wonder if the guy before me tried to roleplay as well, and how that lasted 3 sessions. TLDR, I'm chosen for a roleplay heavy, character-driven game. DM says I have to play a half-caster. I create a dwarven paladin, and during the session, I can't roleplay her. We have to find some missing child in the forest. His mother is afraid to enter it. After I question her motives and why she can't enter, the DM goes furious and kicks me out for derailing and living a fairy tale. Man, where do we even start? We covered some weird roleplay policies in the last video, but this is taking it to a whole new level. It's not necessarily that you aren't allowed to roleplay, it's just that you're allowed to roleplay only at certain times. It is some kind of crazy DM scripting / railroading that I haven't seen before. And look, if this was a private game and a DM and his 2 players were playing in this weird, scripted, strange, hollow fantasy on their own time, that's fine, that's great. They're running the game their way, and that is totally fine. However, once you start opening yourself up, you start putting out your game on LFG, you start inviting other players, then you need to start considering if your policies are good. You need to start having a good session 0, explaining what the rules are like, explaining what your game is like, and clearly this DM didn't do a great job of that, and just threw a temper tantrum when someone played the game in a different manner to him. Honestly, it's probably for the best that the OP only lasted 1 session. If you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories and you want to let me know, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then please do subscribe to Crispy's Tavern. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment objection to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.